Private labels have been booming due to recent financial crisis. Consumers wanted a cheaper version of national brands, and private labels thrived. Private labels need to evolve into true brand weapons. They need to become private brands. And in this evolution, package design is the driving force. Packaging design should seduce, inform, and even save the planet. I'm BRANDERMAN, and this is BRANDERMAN, the podcast where I talk with experts to uncover what it actually takes to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society. Warning: keep this podcast out of the reach of close-minded marketers and designers. Before the interview, let me introduce my design agency.
Brands with purpose. Human, agile, honest brands that leave no one indifferent. Tridimage creates and revitalizes brands to imagine and shape the future. Tridimage, the branding and packaging design agency for bold brands.
Tatiana Ryfer is head of the Branding and Visual Identity Design Department in Carrefour and a member of the Pentawards jury. From Rio de Janeiro to New York and landing in Paris in 2006, Tatiana has a design career marked by an international path. Tatiana contributed to building the design culture inside Carrefour. By managing all the brand's visual aspects, she helped create consistency through all customer touchpoints. In this episode, we discuss the role of package design in building successful private brands. She also tells me why it is important to build own brands transversally and how sustainable packaging will take center stage in the near future. Today with me, Tatiana Ryfer. Tatiana, each of us is a container of ideas, projects, and dreams. However, we can't read the label when we are inside the jar. What do you think your label says, or what would you like it to say?
Well, this is a very tricky question because it's very hard to define one person in a label. So I have a tendency to say that if I could opt for one thing, I would say I'll be a transparent jar with no labels. And so pretty much what you see is what you get. And if possible, a nice jar that you would keep.
Great. Building a brand is like a journey. It starts with defining where we are and asking ourselves where we want to go. What was the path that led you from studying graphic design in Rio de Janeiro to moving to New York and later leading the branding and visual identity at Carrefour in France?
I would say that my career was a sequence of evolution. Some of them I planned, some of them I didn't plan at all. One thing for me was sure was my passion for design and more specifically for building brands. It was pretty much clear to me once I got my diploma in Rio that I wanted to have a broader view of how brands are approached in other countries and also having different cultural experiences. That's why I went to the US, where I stayed for 3 years. And then I would say that the French chapter at the very beginning was supposed to be a 1-year chapter that became a 2 and 3 year. And here I am over I think 15 years in France. And again, it was, a section of opportunities where I had the chance of working for Decathlon, which was such a great experience, and being part of a really big design team and seeing the power of design inside a big corporation. And then changing and finding this challenge for over 10 years now, which is working for Carrefour and be able to see our designs applied in over 30 countries. Yeah, part of it was not planned, but I'm pretty much happy with how things evolved throughout this journey that hopefully is not the end.
I know that you have worked from the agency side and now from the corporate side. What do you understand about design now from inside a large corporation that you didn't understand before when you were on the agency side?
I believe that the role of the designer inside of an agency and the role of an integrated design is absolutely not the same. Although we have common things, we are there to make sure that projects come to life, brands are there built and they last and they engage customers. But for me, the main difference is that when you're a part of the company, you're part of the team, you work in the best interest of the company, and you're part of the strategy. So you're not there only to respond to a briefing, you're there to build this briefing, to challenge it, and to help the company build a roadmap by having all of these different actions that will enable the brand to be the most pertinent in 1 and 3 and 5 years, and hopefully longer than that.
Do you miss something from the agency life?
The nice thing working for an agency, I would say it's the variety of clients. Although we might imagine that it's repetitive working for Carrefour, but it is not. There are so many different sectors and things to do. But when you're in an agency, you can really shift from very different brand worlds. And I believe this is a quite nice challenge to each time change a little bit and go further and understand the business of different clients.
What are some of the lessons you have learned over the years in your role as a head of branding and visual identity?
One of the most important ones is to be patient. When you work for big companies, things take a little bit time to be done and to arrive in stores, but it's really rewarding. Another thing is networking and building relationship with coworkers and stakeholders, and to really share ideas from the beginning and not really interfere in one step of the project. Really build things as a team. It's really more productive, and you build also pride of the teams of coming up with these different projects. Each different experience learned helped me see different things, see different worlds, and be in touch with different teams that have different approaches also to both integrated and external design.
How are the teams that you work with comprised? Are they marketing people, design people, management people?
It's very large in terms of profiles. Of course, a lot of marketing stakeholders, other designs from other disciplines like trends designers, retail designers. This is very important because we are a multidisciplinary team, but also environmental teams, legal teams, merchandise. They all have different subjects where we can help them either through a concrete design project or through design methods, such as design thinking methods and things like that. So even HR, we work with them to make sure that we integrate these design notions, even though they're not design projects.
Great. And what about the in-house design team at Carrefour?
There are fairly multidisciplinary teams that cover most of the expertise in design, product designers, packaging designers, retail, and trends, color, and finishing designers, not to mention branding and visual identity. And the interesting thing is that we all work together. According to the project, we put out different teams to make sure that all the expertise needed are covered by the different team members.
What is the best and the most difficult part of being a design leader within a major multinational retail company?
The best part, I think it's just you build a team. I had the amazing opportunity of integrating the design team in Carrefour at the very beginning, which means that when I got here 10 years ago, there was no design team at all. There was a really nice intention of building up a team, a really nice design director that had this dream of constituting this big design project. But he trusted me a lot to build this project with him. So I was able to build a design team throughout the years and really choose the profiles. There are really nice people that like working together and reach them with different views. Another very positive thing is the fact that being part of such a big and multi-business unit company such as Carrefour, we can really see different things, different challenges, and really learn that what we learned in school, they don't really teach you the business side of it, and being able to integrate a company, you can really see that. You can see the figures, you can see economic impact of what you did, what are the projections, when things don't work and why they didn't work, and what is the impact on the business model. This is very complementary to what we do today. And the difficult part is agility, something that we see a lot on startups today that are challenging each time more big companies, is the power of being very reactive, saying things emerge, new behaviors or opportunities, and being able to react very fast. Unfortunately, in big companies, although we try, it's a little bit less reactive, and sometimes it can be frustrating because, you put all of this effort and you want to see your work end straight very rapidly, but it takes many, many steps, and sometimes it takes a little bit more time than what you wanted to. Being able to adapt to situations in terms of resources, in terms of timings. It's very hard sometimes to have a very clear roadmap and know when projects are coming in and out, and timings. They get stuck. Sometimes they go fast forward. Sometimes you don't have enough people to work on projects. So you have to be able to find resources and adapt yourself very, very rapidly to respond to all of these needs. And of course, without being frustrated when projects stop, they come back later, everything changes.
What is the biggest design challenge you have faced so far at Carrefour?
One of the, I would say, quite recent projects that we've been working on, and it's quite a challenge. It's all of the sustainability challenge. We can keep doing things, but in a different way. When you see the amount of products that we sell, the number of stores that we have, each tiny action has an impact because you multiply it by thousands of different products and actions in stores. So it's being able to decorticate everything and seeing where can you gain material, reduce inking, do things differently, and of course, engage teams to do it with you. You have to make sure that all of your stakeholders are at the same level. They contribute on different actions, and everything goes smoothly until you can launch all of these actions.
Wow. Let's talk about package design, especially focus on private brand package. What do you think is the role of package design in building a private brand?
It's very important because in our stores, for example, you have no sales force. So the packaging has to speak for itself. The number of competition of other brands that are next to each other on our shelves are just huge, either being inside of the store or even outside. So you have to make sure that own brands stand for itself and they convey of both quality, they reassure regarding the brand, and understanding how categories work, understanding that we have different moments of life. What you used to buy, it's not the same thing. What you buy on weekends, it's not the same thing, and not the same way you're buying on weekdays. Your needs change, the way you buy physically or online, and the packaging in the middle of all that, it has to respond to all of these different moments of life. So, of course, the private brand has a huge role. The challenge is to make sure that it engages a conversation and create a link with the brand, regardless of the physical way of buying, physical in stores or online way of buying it.
Through package design, private brands have been differentiating themselves from national brands by not just being a cheap copy, but by having an identity of their own. What is the main difference between designing package for a national brand versus a private brand?
I'll begin right about national brands, where a few of them are very strong at what they did. They have one perimeter and they make sure that they really understand their customers. When you have a private brand that is so large as the Carrefour brand, of course, you have to clusterize and say, what are these different universes and how are you going to be competitive facing national brands? Then understand that when you buy food products, it's not the same thing that when you buy non-food products. The other thing is the notion of fidelity to one brand, which is, I think, decreasing more and more, and customers, they want really to be reassured, of course, by brands, but they're really to change brands regarding what they offer to customers. And then when you work for a private label, you also have to build the brand transversally, making sure that you're pertinent in your category, but you're being perceived as a brand transversally. So regardless of the different types of products, the brand emerges, and I understand and I see this brand on shelves and it makes sense. It's kind of complex, but it's a very nice exercise too.
What is a common myth about private brand design?
I think the common myth is that private labels are ugly. Normally, we tended to think, it's a private label, so you do a compromise on sometimes the quality of the product, or sometimes the packaging is not as valorizing as it should be. And I believe English people are very strong at making their own brands look amazingly nice. Really, really nice job are being done in private labels that customers are willing to let go of their national brands, and they're very proud of them too.
Why do you think that this trend, design with personality in own brands, started in UK? Is it spreading all over Europe and the world?
Whenever I go to England and I see other retailers, I believe that they're doing such a great job. It's a cultural thing. I believe that English people, they're ready for a few categories to break barriers and codes and things like that, which is not really the case on different countries. So you have to make sure that at the same time that you want to break category codes, that you're being perceived as being part of the category, you are reassuring clients. So you have to really take culture by culture and asking yourself, where do you put the line between just breaking the codes and not being a Me Too brand, and really coming up with a really nice and innovative design.
How can we build authentic own brands that talk, share, and understand their audiences?
The key to that is start listening more to customers, shifting from a business-oriented company into a human-oriented company, and really be attentive to society movements, economic movements, what people are willing to buy, to share, how do they live. These are really important things that enable you to better understand your audience and create connection and create brands that really engage this conversation. A few years ago, it was a one-way conversation, and today it's a conversation. It's listening to them. It's more important what other people talk about your brand than what your brand talks about itself. I believe this is the key to building really nice brands that connect with customers.
What kind of consumer research do you find more useful?
There's one thing that we particularly put into action this last years, which is coming a degree closer to our customers. It's doing really quick surveys and roundtables, not finishing things, but sharing ideas and asking, what do they think? How would it make it better? Would they use it? Would they buy it? Would they share it? I believe there's a gap in between what people say and what people do. Sometimes we would put prototypes and just ask next to the shelves, what do you think about that? All of this input combined are really, really rich material for making sure that the concepts that we put up in the market are the most pertinent possible.
When you design a private brand at Carrefour, I guess that you should implement it all over the world. Is it possible to create like an international design solution that will work in France, in Spain, Brazil, or Argentina? Or do you have to adapt to local design codes?
I would say both. We work with the minimum denominator. We have to make sure, of course, that what we do as an international brand is applied to all of our countries. And this is not only a private label, but we cannot neglect the fact that cultures are different, expectations are different. So being supple to adaptations, it's also very important.
How is e-commerce changing the rules of package design?
It's a challenge that we face every day. The fact that people were used to buy things physically in stores, and now each time more. And in the past year, most strongly, all the e-commerce gain amounts and amounts of clients, and people are shifting from physical to online shopping or hybrid methods. All of the physical issues and opportunities that you have when you are physically with the product, you don't have it online. You cannot touch it, you cannot turn it, you cannot hear it, you cannot smell it. The packaging has a completely different role. Of course, it's very hard to say that you're going to redesign and readapt all of your packaging ranges to an online version, but you can adapt, you can enrich, you can say other things too. There are really nice opportunities. You can see videos about the product. You can make sure that you have the very important visual key assets on your packaging visual, but then you can explore it differently. And these are things to be explored each time more. In this shift, how is your packaging going to behave in an online environment?
Yeah, it will be a major change. And also, how do we design private brand packaging for a sustainable tomorrow?
Before, it was kind of something that we thought a given moment in creation. And today, it's part of the way we think. It's part of the briefing at the same level that you think about colors, brands, compositions. You have to think about materials, inkings. Brands that don't think like that, they're going to be each time more left behind. It's proven that customers, they want each time more brands that are engaged into all of the sustainability issues of the packaging. And sometimes, surprisingly, they're willing even to pay more for sustainable packaging, or willing to organize the way they buy differently just because they don't believe anymore even in the role of packaging, or packaging changed. We've been seeing bulk stores or bulk products being sold each time more on our stores. So it's making sure not only packagings are the most environmentally possible, but also making sure that we can reduce it and completely eliminate it when possible.
What is the worst design crime you have ever seen or committed?
I've seen quite a few, but that's one that really struck me. And it was not so long ago. I went to one of our stores to look at the fresh fruits and vegetable part. It was a big hypermarket. You know, this very tiny, small bananas that we see a lot in Brazil, really tiny. And they were not only packaged with a simple plastic bag, and they had a double packaging with a very, very thick double clamshells for 6 tiny bananas. And it struck me because next to it, we had regular bananas, just, kind of an elastic band around it, no packaging at all. Bananas are, one of the products that can be sold without packaging at all. And it cut my heart seeing that. I came back and I talked to the teams, and I said, it's just not possible that we are selling bananas like that. You eat it in 5 minutes and you pollute the planet with all of this plastic. So it was one of the recent things that struck me quite hard.
Sure. Do you think that Latin American designers like you can bring a new perspective to the world of design?
Absolutely. I believe actually in multicultural ambiences, even for companies that are not international. It's not only being Latin American or North American or European or Asian. Mixing different cultures in a creative team is the best thing that we can do, because each one brings different backgrounds, and the end result is so much richer than just being on a monocultural team. And more specifically about, I'd say, Latin Americans, I have also a few in my team. I believe, and that's maybe a stereotype, but being part of this stereotype, I think I'm allowed to say it. It's like seeing the glass half full, or having, the joyful and expanded way of sharing things and saying things, quite positive approach. I've seen this quite regularly. And the second thing is, I've seen quite nice work coming from Latin America design agencies also in the last years. There's a huge gap, because when I got my diploma, and even before, it was kind of a new profession. You didn't find a lot of big design companies. It's something that exploded in the last years, and a lot of effort has been done by either international brands with branches in Latin America that engage Latin America design agencies, or even bringing this to global brands. Very, very nice design quality.
What changes do you think we will see in the coming years in the world of own brands and their package design?
One brands, I think that they're very reassuring because they cover all of the different products. Private brands, they have this power of making accessible different products that normally wouldn't be through national brands, because when you buy them, part of what you buy also, it's the publicity, is the brand itself.
Can I ask you 3 recommendations? Something to read, something to eat, and something to think.
Well, something to read would be going to the next bookstore. I like very much physical things. Maybe I'm more attached to those than the new generation that are completely digital, and even books, they're digital books. Everything is bought by internet. I like very much touching things, feeling things, going through pages. Then the second thing you said was something to eat. That's harder. Ice cream, I would say. Making yourself pleasure more than one specific thing to eat. Something to think, I would say in the last year or so, we put things into perspective with the COVID, and we really had to rethink priorities. You think about people that matter to you and re-putting things in perspective and what you want to really do with your life, who are the people you want to be next to. Those are the things that I would say they are the important things to think about.
What is your next adventure?
I go from challenge to challenge. And as long as I'm challenging what I do and I'm doing it with pleasure, then I stay. And sometimes new opportunities come by. So let's see what's coming next.
Tatiana, what would you ask yourself?
What would I ask myself? Even though we're coming back to reality right now, and luckily being able to stabilize all of this COVID crisis, I would ask myself to keep the good things that this COVID period was able to give me, which was being able to be closer to my family and stay longer with them.
Thank you so much for your transparency and also for your accessibility, like a very good own brand. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and it was a real pleasure to have this conversation.
I hope you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. You can check the episode notes for all the relevant links. I also invite you to follow me on Instagram and on my website, branderman.design. Follow the podcast in your favorite app so you don't miss the next episode of Branderman, the podcast where we try to uncover how to make a positive impact on consumers, the market, and society through package design.